What would happen if humans suddenly disappeared? Imagine that every human on Earth disappears at the same moment. No explosion, no warning. 1 second, we are here. The next, 8 billion coffee cups are left unattended. At first, nature would not celebrate. It would probably be confused. Cars already moving would crash. Aircraft would continue on autopilot for a while, but eventually run out of fuel. Elevators would stop between floors, becoming very expensive metal boxes with no one inside to complain. Then the power grid would begin to fail. Power stations need constant balancing, maintenance, and fuel. Within hours or days, most cities would go dark. A few hydroelectric plants and solar systems might last longer, but without people to repair them, even they would eventually stop. Nuclear reactors would automatically shut down. But spent fuel still produces heat, so cooling systems would need electricity. Most facilities have emergency systems. Yet without anyone to refuel generators or repair failures, some sites could eventually become dangerous. The first week would be hardest for animals that depend on us. Pets trapped inside homes would struggle to escape. Farm animals bred for food, milk, or rapid growth might not survive without care. Ironically, the first victims of a world without humans could be the animals humans created. Meanwhile, cities would begin changing. Water pumps would stop. Toilets would stop being useful. Underground stations would slowly flood. Refrigerators would warm, and supermarkets would become enormous, terrible-smelling buffets for insects and rats. But outside, the air would become cleaner, surprisingly fast. Traffic would vanish. Factories would go silent. The constant hum of civilization would disappear. Wild animals would notice the silence long before they understood why it happened. Within weeks, deer, wild boar, coyotes, monkeys, and other animals would begin exploring roads and suburbs. Pigeons, of course, would act as if the cities had always belonged to them. But nature would not politely restore everything to a perfect forest. It would improvise. Grass would grow through cracks. Roots would lift sidewalks. Vines would climb walls. Rain would enter buildings, freeze, expand, and slowly break concrete apart. In humid places, vegetation could cover streets within decades. In deserts, abandoned cities might remain recognizable for centuries. Without maintenance, every storm would become a demolition crew. Roofs would collapse. Steel would rust. Windows would shatter. Bridges would weaken. Some dams would eventually fail, releasing floods and allowing rivers to carve new paths through land we once controlled. After 50 years, many suburbs would look more like young forests. Predators would follow prey into former neighborhoods. Some dog populations might become wild, although many modern breeds would be poorly suited to survive without humans. A tiny chihuahua might have confidence. Nature would still have questions. After several centuries, most wooden homes would be gone. Coastal cities would be reshaped by storms and rising seas. Skyscrapers would lose their glass and slowly collapse, although thick stone structures could last much longer. Plastic, ceramics, underground tunnels, mines, and radioactive waste would remain as strange fossils of human civilization. Satellites in low orbit would eventually fall back to Earth. Others farther away could continue circling for thousands or even millions of years. Machines traveling above a planet that no longer remembers their creators. So, would Earth be better without us? For many wild species, human disappearance would remove hunting, traffic, noise, and habitat destruction. Forests would expand. Rivers would change course. Animals would enter places they had avoided for generations. But the planet would not simply return to the world that existed before humans. We have changed the climate, moved species across continents, built unstable structures, and created animals that cannot easily live without us. Nature would survive our disappearance, but it would not erase us. It would absorb our cities, rearrange our mistakes, and turn civilization into habitat. The final proof that humans once ruled Earth would not be a shining skyscraper.